The whispers in Huntsville didn't just appear out of nowhere. They erupted like wildfire the moment Tasha K pressed upload. One single video, one revelation, and suddenly the sleepy corners of Alabama's reality TV scene were ablaze, igniting conversations that spanned Instagram feeds, Twitter threads, and group chats everywhere. This wasn't your everyday gossip that you scroll past and forget 10 minutes later. No, this was the kind of news that made people sit up straight, rewind the clip not once, but twice, and send it to every group chat with the words, "Did y'all see this?" in all caps. It was the kind of moment that instantly changed the conversation around a community, a caste, and a man who had built his entire identity on control and arrogance. When Tasha K revealed that Martell Holt had allegedly threatened Melody with an intimate tape, the internet collectively froze. It wasn't merely the accusation that shocked fans, it was the casual cruelty behind it. The notion that a husband could weaponize something so private against the woman who had spent years building a life beside him struck a chord that resonated far beyond the show's typical audience. You didn't need concrete evidence to understand the gravity. The implication alone was enough to tip public opinion in Melody's favor in a way that no reunion episode, Instagram Live, or petty social media feud could ever accomplish. Huntsville wasn't just watching drama unfold. They were watching a calculated collapse, a slow-motion implosion of a man whose persona was rooted entirely in manipulation and bravado. Martell, for years, had worn arrogance like armor. He had grinned through accusations, laughed at the pain of others, and dismissed serious situations as if they were nothing more than casual salon chatter. But this time, that mask didn't hold. His smirk, once a symbol of confidence, now appeared hollow, almost cowardly. Where once people had seen charm and swagger, they now saw someone empty, consumed by his own ego. A man whose manipulations were finally unraveling in plain view of millions. And then, for the first time, the scales shifted decisively in Melody's favor. The transformation was subtle, yet striking. Melody didn't need to scream, storm off a set, or engage in social media battles to prove herself. Her strength manifested quietly, through silence, poise, and the ability to meet provocation with dignity. That infamous elevator confrontation where Ariane Curry attempted to provoke her, reminding Melody of her perceived role as the eternal other woman, perfectly encapsulated this shift. Melody's refusal to rise to the bait, to break character even as the room bristled with tension, became a symbolic victory. Clips of that elevator moment were replayed endlessly online, dissecting Ariane's desperation, the emptiness behind Martell's smirk, and the quiet power in Melanie's composed response. For the first time, the audience could witness the consequences of restraint and grace, and it was electrifying. It was a masterclass in the quiet, unassuming power that comes from rising above chaos rather than being consumed by it. Ariane, meanwhile, spent years insisting she wasn't merely a side character in Martell's narrative. She fought to carve out her identity, to prove that she was a central figure rather than just a supporting presence in his ongoing drama. Yet, the elevator incident and the subsequent online reaction reminded her, and everyone watching, of her true position in the story. Fans were unimpressed by her bravado. Instead of admiration, her attempts at relevance came across as pettiness, a desperate scramble to cling to significance at the expense of another woman's dignity. Each clapback she posted online was dissected meticulously. Contradictions were highlighted, and her evasion of accountability became its own form of spectacle. Public perception was merciless, and the more she tried to defend herself, the deeper the hole seemed to become. It was a stark contrast to Melody, whose silent, calculated poise only strengthened her reputation and deepened public support. At the same time, rumors surrounding Martell began to swirl uncontrollably. Stories of backdoor deals, group chats filled with leaked screenshots, and claims that he boasted about holding dirt on everyone circulated online. Fans didn't have to know the truth to form an opinion. The court of public opinion had already rendered its verdict. Martell was more than just a guilty party. He had become the embodiment of everything that fans were tired of in reality TV men. The gaslighting, the endless shifting of blame, the refusal to accept responsibility, it all came together to create the image of a man whose charm was finally outmatched by his arrogance. What made this scandal different from previous controversies was the speed with which it spilled out of the entertainment bubble into mainstream discourse. Hashtags demanding accountability from sponsors began trending, businesses distanced themselves, and even cast members who had maintained neutrality for years were forced to reckon with public scrutiny. Silence was no longer a safe haven. It was read as complicity. Martell, who had long relied on charm to navigate controversies, faced a rude awakening. No witty remark, no staged interview, no casual dismissal could alter the tide anymore. Every appearance, every attempt at denial only deepened the public's distaste. Martell was no longer the misunderstood star, he was the antagonist, addicted to chaos, a villain who believed he could laugh his way out of accountability. But laughter loses its power when the crowd has already turned against you. By the time blogs and gossip sites began hinting at potential lawsuits, financial investigations, and government scrutiny into Martell's business dealings, he had already lost the one thing that had kept him afloat: goodwill. Once a symbol of Huntsville's ambition, he now resembled its cautionary tale. Meanwhile, Melody remained calm, measured, unshaken, and steadily being recast as the hero of this unfolding drama. Social media, clogged with clips, memes, and side-by-side comparisons, transformed him from a polarizing figure into a full-blown example of what happens when unchecked ego meets collective accountability. The speed at which public opinion stripped away Martell's credibility was staggering. Fans who once debated his intentions were now united in disbelief that they had ever given him the benefit of the doubt. Overnight, Martell's charm, the cornerstone of his persona, collapsed, leaving him exposed, vulnerable, and widely ridiculed. While Martell's world unraveled, Melody's reputation experienced a renaissance. She was no longer cast as the victim, but as someone who had endured years of disrespect and emerged with her dignity intact. The hashtag #ProtectMelody wasn't self-promoted, it emerged organically, fueled by viewers who had decided enough was enough. Every time Martell mocked her, deflected blame, or engaged in petty theatrics, the audience's defense of Melody grew louder, stronger, more fervent. Ironically, every attempt Martell made to discredit her only elevated her further, turning his attacks into instruments of her empowerment. Melody's rise was quiet but undeniable, a stark contrast to the chaos that engulfed her counterparts. Ariane Puri, for her part, was pulled further into the spotlight, though not in the way she had hoped. Previously comfortable in her role as the woman Martell couldn't let go of, her attachment to him now appeared less like passion and more like self-sabotage. She was no longer framed as a glamorous rebel defying societal expectations, but as the enabler who fueled Martell's arrogance, even as it consumed them both. Her aggressive, messy, and insecure approach became emblematic of everything fans saw wrong with her choices. Social media was merciless, dubbing her the shadow that cheers for chaos, amplifying her mistakes while reinforcing Melody's composure. Behind the scenes, Huntsville itself was caught in the crossfire. Reality TV thrives on drama, but this was different. Producers faced a nightmare. Chaos that entertained is one thing, but chaos that threatened the credibility of the entire franchise is another. Sponsors were skittish, hesitant to be associated with Martell's brand. Cast members debated his worth, some advocating for his removal to protect their own reputations, others fearing the show would lose its spark without its most combustible personality. This was no longer just a storyline, it was a liability, a test of the show's resilience in the face of public scrutiny. What fascinated fans most was Martell's duality. Outwardly, he laughed, brushed off accusations, and tried to paint himself as the unbothered star who thrived on controversy. Behind closed doors, whispers of paranoia began leaking. Friends of friends spoke of him boasting about secret recordings, compromising conversations, and holding leverage over others. Whether these stories were true or not hardly mattered. The perception alone created a chilling image, a man who didn't merely stir chaos for fun, but relied on manipulation as a means of survival. This realization transformed curiosity into disgust, and in reality TV, perception is everything. As a result, Martell's career began to crumble. Bookings dried up, partnerships vanished, events that once featured him went silent. Even fans who had defended him now shifted sides, embarrassed at having supported him. In the unforgiving world of reality TV, a fall from grace is swift, and Martell's reputation became a cautionary tale. He became a walking meme, a punchline to a story he once controlled. But the domino effect didn't stop with him. Ariana's online defenses were scrutinized and twisted into evidence of complicity. Her loyalty, her attempts to explain herself, all backfired spectacularly. Sympathy never arrived for her. Instead, the internet doubled down on mocking her for repeatedly attaching herself to a sinking ship, with the cruelest critiques directed not at Martell, but at her for continuing to choose him. For Melody, however, this was her moment of ascension. She didn't throw shade, she didn't run to Instagram Live, and she didn't match noise with noise. Her power lay in restraint. Every calm statement, every measured appearance, was amplified by fans eager to champion her. What Martell and Ariane failed to grasp was that silence had become her loudest weapon. The louder they ranted, the more powerful her quiet grace became. This was no longer about reality TV drama. It had evolved into a story of ego, betrayal, and public reckoning. Fans were witnessing not just a man's downfall, but a cultural moment in which accountability and composure triumphed over chaos and manipulation. As gossip sites speculated about lawsuits, financial collapse, and possible government scrutiny, the story had outgrown television. Martell's unraveling was no longer a mere storyline. It was a slow-motion collapse unfolding in front of millions. Every bystander online documented each dent, each scrape, each misstep, turning what was once entertainment into a cautionary tale. The public had chosen its hero, Melody. And with that shift, Martell's every move was scrutinized, dissected, and reframed as a warning of what unchecked ego and manipulation can produce. Clips of his smug interviews were stitched into endless montages, his once charming grin now a symbol of arrogance, cruelty, and hubris. The internet wasn't just documenting his downfall, it was accelerating it. Partnerships disappeared, events went silent, and whispers about government investigations added layers of intrigue, whether true or not. Martell became less a man and more a headline waiting to happen, a future documentary subject illustrating the dangers of unchecked ambition. However, it all began last November when Mayor Christina Fugazi appointed Jason as vice mayor shortly after taking office. Instead of tackling the city's real problems, Jason allegedly dove straight into questionable deals. By May, just 5 months later, he was already under investigation for misusing $50,000. That money came from the city's risk mitigation fund, which was intended to ensure a Wild 'N Out live event wouldn't be canceled due to poor ticket sales. Most people barely noticed his short rant at first. He sounded bitter, almost as if he were upset only because Beyoncé hadn't invited him. At the time, it came across as petty, entitled, and almost laughable. But soon, rumors started spreading suggesting that Beyoncé and Jay-Z were tied to much deeper scandals. And suddenly, people began to wonder whether Jason's words carried more weight than they initially thought. Jason didn't stop there. He went live on Instagram and dropped an explosive list of celebrities he claimed to have personally seen at Diddy's infamous parties. The names shocked fans. Jordan Woods, Travis Scott, Usher, DaBaby, Justin Bieber, Tyrese, Amber Rose, Mary J. Blige, Tiana Taylor, and yes, Beyoncé and Jay-Z themselves. By pointing fingers at some of the biggest stars in entertainment, Jason turned what initially seemed like a petty complaint into a storm of speculation that refuses to die down. A few days later, he escalated even further. He claimed that Jay-Z and Beyoncé sent people after him because they didn't like what he had said. According to Jason, they pressured him to clarify his remarks, even wanting him to speak on their behalf, but he refused. He also insisted that he once stopped a damaging story about them from being released, yet they still treated him as if he didn't matter. From Jason's perspective,
The reason he continues to call out Beyoncé and Jay-Z is because he feels disrespected and overlooked. He even hinted that they might be behind the problems he's facing today, posting online shortly after people began linking their names to his situation. In his mind, while it's fine for people to not like him, inventing false narratives to ruin his reputation crosses the line. And as expected, the public had plenty to say. One person wrote, "Jason Lee being a mayor tells me everything I need to know about Stockton." Another joked, "I thought Beyoncé running away from Jason was the funniest thing, but him becoming mayor? That tops it. We are definitely living in wild times." Despite the jokes, the issue is serious. Jason has been accused of embezzling money from Stockton's funds, and the possibility of misuse of taxpayer dollars has raised eyebrows. At the same time, his accusations against Beyoncé and Jay-Z have stirred even more drama, leaving people wondering how much truth there really is to his story. So, the big questions remain. Did Jason actually misuse the city's money? Are Beyoncé and Jay-Z somehow tied to this messy situation? Or is he simply using their names as a shield? And just like Jason, Martell Holt's situation has left fans, producers, and co-stars questioning everything. Could Melody take legal action to protect her privacy? Are state authorities investigating Martell's finances, given years of rumors about shady business deals? Fans are hanging on every gossip blog post, treating each rumor as the next potential bombshell.
The producers of Love and Marriage Huntsville were suddenly facing a nightmare. Drama is the lifeblood of reality TV, but scandals this dark threaten to collapse entire shows. Reports claimed cast members argued behind the scenes, with some demanding Martell's removal to protect their own reputations. Tension on set spilled into filming, making it clear that Martell wasn't just another messy cast member, he had become a liability. By this point, Martell's carefully curated image had collapsed entirely. He once controlled the narrative with his charm and bravado, but the mask had slipped, revealing what fans now recognized as ego, arrogance, and a series of poor decisions that destroyed everything he had built. And once the public turns on you in the age of social media, there's no turning back. Memes mocking his arrogance flooded timelines, and hashtags like Protect Melody gained traction, rallying a community of fans who were done watching him manipulate situations for his own gain. Even his co-stars began stepping away, not wanting their names tied to his downfall. What started with whispers of a private tape had exploded into the full destruction of his brand. The consequences for Martell didn't stop at his reputation. Business opportunities dried up, partnerships were quietly ended, sponsors cut ties. Rumors of government scrutiny over his finances added fuel to the fire, leaving fans speculating whether he would face legal repercussions. Suddenly, Martell wasn't just the bad guy of Huntsville, he had become a cautionary tale of what happens when unchecked ego meets relentless public scrutiny. And it wasn't just him who suffered. Ariana Curry, who had tied herself to Martell's role for years, faced her own collapse. Instead of gaining power or influence, she became a symbol of misplaced loyalty. Fans mocked her attempts to clap back online, saying she chose the wrong side and was now paying the price. Once the internet paints you as the villain, forgiveness rarely follows. Meanwhile, Melody's reputation was ascending. Fans admired her grace under fire, her calm in the face of attacks, and her ability to continue moving forward while others crumbled. She became a figure people rallied around, the heroine in a story that was quickly spinning out of control. Martell's downfall became her victory. She didn't need to shout, she didn't need to run to Instagram Live, and she didn't need to generate noise to be heard. Every composed statement, every quiet post, every calm action amplified her influence. In a world addicted to drama, her restraint became her loudest weapon. In the court of public opinion, she wasn't merely surviving Martell's chaos, she was transcending it. Her dignity, her calm, and her poise elevated her into a symbol of resilience. While Martell drowned in noise and mockery, Melody rose, silent yet powerful, embodying the strength of composure over chaos. What happens when a man builds his entire identity on control and manipulation, only to have that image crumble under the weight of his own actions? Martell Holt's, once Huntsville's face of ambition and drama, now serves as a warning. When ego outpaces integrity, the public always has the final word. Fans, having witnessed every twist, every revelation, and every flame of scandal, were not about to look away. This was more than reality TV. This was a story of downfall, redemption, and the enduring power of quiet strength. Melody emerged not just as a survivor, but as a hero, proof that poise, dignity, and restraint are often more powerful than chaos, smirks, and manipulation. Like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into reality TV's most shocking moments. Who do you think came out on top in Huntsville? Let us know in the comments below.